Welcome to another episode of the Dentology podcast, where we discuss the business of dentistry. In this podcast series, we'll be discussing all the non-clinical aspects of dentistry, from goodwill values, finance, marketing, how to buy and sell a dental practice, mindset, through to where you can invest your money in team management issues. My name is Andy Acton, and I'm joined by my co-host, Chris Strevens. Let's jump straight into it.
Some people's life stories, when they're still so young, just blow you away, don't they?
When you listen to her and what she's had to deal with, and obviously there's way more behind that we didn't get a chance to talk about, that driven nature, it sort of makes your life look potentially a little bit like dull.
Yeah. Oh, but the resilience she has, you know, to travel from a birth country to Italy, not being able to speak the language, qualifying as a hygienist, coming over to London, and then the whole experience of needing to get onto a dental course and qualify and everything. It really is a story of what can be achieved against adversity.
There's a lot of stepping out there, you know, stepping out of your comfort zone, for sure.
Yeah, but for someone still who's so young, it's set her up for a really tremendous dental career.
You can sort of see it running through. It's a bit like stick a rock, really.
Yeah.
You know, wherever you break it off, there's going to be that resilience in it.
Yeah, and I think particularly those thinking about dentistry as a career or younger dentists are going to take a huge amount from that episode.
Lots to learn. Lots to learn.
No, it's great.
So welcome to our latest episode of Dentology, the Business of Dentistry podcast. And today we are absolutely delighted and elated and excited to talk to Chinwe Akuonu, who's a newly qualified dentist and going to tell us her story. So she's a dentist who qualified from King's College. She's a positive energy force and recently appointed a key opinion leader with Colgate. So we're looking forward to hearing about that. Welcome, Chinwe. How are you doing?
I'm fine, thank you. Hi, everyone. How are you, both of you?
Yeah, we're good.
We're good. We're very good indeed.
Enjoying the sun.
Yeah.
So we originally met through Instagram during lockdown, and I think we first met you face to face at the FMC Future of Dentistry Summit in 2022. But you're one of those people that you're so likeable and you're so easygoing. The instant you meet you, you become kind of friends because you're so open in how you are. And I think the thing that struck me when we were talking was your childhood story, and we'll get to the dental bit in a minute. But could you perhaps just share with us the start of your life and your journey across the UK? Because I found the whole thing fascinating.
Thank you, Chris. Yeah. So the first time we met, we were at the Future of Dentistry Awards, and I felt like I couldn't just sort of talking with you. I just kept going on and on and on. And thank you for the opportunity as well for being here today. So I will start with just telling you how I grew up, my story, and how I ended up here in London as a dentist. So I was born in Nigeria. So I lived in Nigeria with my mom and my two sisters. I was there up until the age of 12. So my dad actually lived in Italy. He worked in Italy and he had his family in Nigeria because I think back in the days, like in the 80s and the 90s, things were really good back in Nigeria. So my dad always thought that we were going to be there forever. So he would always sort of commute from Italy to Nigeria during the summer and that was it. But as the years went by, I think things just got really, really difficult to manage. And he just couldn't cope, with flying in and out and everything. So he just decided, you just have to come over. And even life in Italy was actually cheaper than life in Nigeria because everything had to be private in Nigeria. There was nothing, public. There weren't many public schools and everything was just so expensive. And basically it was, I had two sisters, so there were three children the mom and dad had to look after. So it was really, really hard. So we moved to Italy. That was in 2004. I was just 12 years old there. And I remember, I think I felt a bit upset that I was leaving Nigeria because, that's all I had known. I had all my friends. I was in school. And it's basically like, getting towards the teenage age. So I was not happy about going to Italy at all, even if...
Whereabouts in Italy?
So I ended up in Brescia. So we lived in a city called Brescia. Brescia is in the northern part of Italy. So for those who watch football, they might not know about the football team. It's very close to like Milano, Bergamo. So whenever you fly to Milano, Bergamo, it's like 45 minutes from there. So It's a small city, yeah, not as big as Milano, but yeah, quite a big industrial city. So that's where we ended up with our family. And what was that? I didn't want to go, even if it was a better life for me. I think back then I didn't. I was just 12, so I mean, my mom and dad knew better. And something I remember, I think that struck me was a comment I think that my dad made when we were coming through, was that even in Nigeria, like I feel like life wasn't easy there, but we were used to that. We were used to struggling. And I think I remember asking my dad this question. I asked him if there was like electricity 24/7, and he, honestly, he sort of laughed at me, and he was like, I felt really bad because I feel like my kid has not, because I've never had that. Like we would go days and days without electricity in Nigeria. Like everything was so precious, water, like even the basic necessities of life was really, really hard to get then. So he felt like he was really happy we were coming over, and he said he did feel bad that, his little girl was asking him if there was electricity 24 hours. It's like,
real like basic needs.
So it was a good thing. So anyways, we moved to Italy, and as I didn't like it, honestly. At first, I would say, how long? I think my first 5, 6, 7 years, they were horrible. We ended up in a very small village in Brescia, as I've said already, and we were like the only Black family there. So it was something completely new. And in Italy, they don't speak English, so we had to learn Italian. So we started going to school, and they just placed us.
Could your dad already speak Italian, having been over there and working here?
Yeah,
so he
was the only one who spoke Italian.
Yeah.
So my 2 sisters and mom had to start learning Italian. So it was really hard. I'd go to school, I would not understand a single word of what my teacher was saying. I would just sit in class. Sometimes I'd sleep through class because I couldn't just understand anything. Oh, wow. Yes. I had a few lovely, lovely teachers who took their own extra time to give us Italian lessons. Like they knew a little bit of English and would stay back after school, and so we did meet some lovely people, even if, childhood was really hard because the kids were not used to seeing like Black people. So when we would get on the bus, no one would sit next to us. It's literally a very lonely kind of. So I think like my teenage, wow. I always say I would never go back in life. I know everyone says, I'd like to go back, to when I'm like, no, not.
Had your dad prepared you for this? Because obviously your dad had lived over there. Had he just become immune to it? Did he not notice that it was that sort of environment because he was so used to it?
I think my dad was very protective, and he didn't want it to come from he didn't want to sort of skew our thoughts already towards racism. So he was pretending it wasn't there. He knew it was there, but he didn't just want to prepare saying, okay, girls, when you come over, people are going to look at you different, because he felt like by saying that he was sort of already setting us up. Does that make sense? To feel that we were all.
No,
I know it's a really weird concept, but I think my dad sort of ignored it. He knew it was there. He just preferred to not to speak about it, because that way he felt like we would dwell more on it. So he would always encourage us and say, "You're the best."
Well, it sets the environment, doesn't it?
I was going to say, were people neutral to you, or were they negative to you? Were they just like, oh, you're a bit like I don't know, almost like something on show, or were they actually unpleasant to you as well? Were they negative?
That's a very good question, I think. So I think according to different phases of our life, when we were younger, they were very negative, because I think kids are very direct. As we got older,
they can be horrible, can't they?
They were really horrible. It was negative when we were 12, 13, 14, 15. Once we got into high school, people were more mature. It was more of indifferent, we don't even exist, there. And that was also the same through university for me as well. So you just become immune to it anyways. But initially it was a bit more of negativity and also surprise. I would see some kids as well, so they're really curious. So not everyone was really negative. Some people were just I've never seen anyone like this before, I've never. So you could actually tell. But another thing I felt was just really not right was the fact that people would always stare at you in such a way that is so inconvenient that you wouldn't even be able to carry on with what you were doing. So I and my family, for example, if we went to the restaurant, everyone would stop eating in the restaurant and everyone would stare at you. And it was ridiculous. We didn't go to the restaurant that often.
The thing is, it's really hard because I've lived in London all my life. So, London is one of the most diverse and multicultural places on the planet. If you stopped and looked at anyone who was slightly different to you, you'd get nothing done. Because you literally would get nothing done because
never eat in a restaurant.
Well, no, because there's so many creeds and cultures and different types of people. So it's remarkable to think that people in a restaurant would literally stop and look at you based on the colour of your skin.
It's remarkable. To say. No, I can't. I mean, it makes me laugh now. I look back and I'm like, how? Like, it's just so funny. As you said, especially now I live in London, it's just funny, and I'm like, I can't believe, honestly, but that's how it was for us. But anyways, so we started off at middle school. I am my twin sister. My older sister was a year older. She went straight into high school. I was so lucky I had my twin sister, so we'd go to school every day. So I was never on my own. If she was ill, I wouldn't go to school. If I was ill, she wouldn't go to school. That's how it was, because we could not.
That was your
exactly.
Bubble.
So we got we were already close, but I think this experience also like made me and my sisters super even closer than you can ever imagine. Like everyone says it and they notice it. We're so close, but I think this life experiences make you this way as well.
Well, I was thinking, as a teenager, those are really formative years, aren't they? And in reality, if you didn't have a circle of friends, and then you're going to be really tight with your sisters, aren't you?
You said it all, as simple as that. Yeah, we had no friends, so everything we did was together. But it was fine. I found out I didn't need friends. I thought I didn't need friends then, because I just felt, that, I had everything I needed, because luckily there was three of us, so we were already a group. So it was three of us. If we wanted to go out, it would be three of us. So three is a good group, it's not, it's better than two. So it was okay. So
I wonder whether that's another, a lot of these, the podcasts we do, there's always something, isn't there, that we go, I wonder if that has helped. And I'm just thinking, I wonder if that experience has made you as self-sufficient as you are, in the fact of you've got your tight group. So it doesn't, but you've spent your teenage years not really caring about what other people think or whatever, mixing, and you can choose to engage or not engage depending on whether you want to engage or not engage.
Yeah, I have to compliment you, because I think you just hit the nail on the head. That is so true. I know. I'm not saying I don't care, but I've just, as you said, because this is my formative years. It's just as you said. I'm not really bothered about trying to like fit in, because I never fit in the first place, and I've just been happy with what I have. It is true. So I'm just so happy with my family, my sisters, and as you said, I decide if I want to engage, if I want something different.
Yeah.
I suppose it's beyond your control, and I do wonder, because it's interesting. We were speaking to Alfonso Rao, who an Italian guy who's now over here with a number of practices, and his attitude was very much being his own man, doing his own thing, moving in his own direction, which wasn't the way his family operated. But there's certain similarities in terms of kind of being a relatively free spirit and going about things in his own way.
Can you still speak Italian?
Yes. We speak Italian every day, right?
Yes. You'd be one of those. You'd be one of those great ones on those YouTube. Have you seen those YouTube clips where they send a white guy who speaks perfect Mandarin into a Chinese restaurant or something, and the Chinese people in China, the people are being rude about him, and then he responds in Mandarin. And
yes, yes.
They said you walk around an Italian place or something.
I do that. I do that with my Italian patients. So I just pretend, I don't understand Italian, and then when they come and they're like, "What? So you can speak Italian?" And I'm like, "Yes," and then we just carry on the conversation. Yes, so my Italian is very fluent, and I think I picked that up in middle school, because I said, I started off not knowing Italian. We used to have our marks we scored 10 out of 10, over 10, and I used to have 2 over 10 in every single thing. Like it was horrible. My report sheet was just horrible, but because I couldn't understand the language, I don't know what else they could expect. So my first year went like that, and then my second year, I needed to catch up. And when I was in Nigeria, I've always been like top of the class and everything. But before I knew it, started picking up things. And I think that what helped me learn Italian really quickly was actually Latin. So we had to study Latin in Italy. So they do make us study Latin in high school. And Latin is just so precise. It's just so precise. You're not allowed to make errors. So we would do like translations and versions, and you could not, by the time you were done with 3 mistakes, it was done, like you had already failed. So that amount of precision was what actually I think I was able to sort of like translate that into Italian, and that really, really helped. So, so that's really helped me. So I picked up.
And I suppose also, if you've got no friends out there, the way you communicate is you've got to be able to learn Italian to be able to communicate with your classmates and other people. So
probably watch TV and stuff like that. I'd imagine. You sit there in front of some Italian TV again.
And whilst it's not particularly nice, it forces you into an environment where you have to learn it. And as a result, now you're somebody who's fluent in Italian because you kind of had to do it to get by. Out of interest, when did you learn English? Did you learn that back in Nigeria?
English is actually like the general national language. Everyone speaks English. So at school, everywhere, because there's so many tribes in Nigeria, there's like 300 languages. So the only way we can actually communicate everyone, in the same way is through English. So English is the language spoken in Nigeria. And then at home, everyone speaks their own, specific language.
So if you got together with your family for dinner and it was just you as a family, what language
English.
would you speak?
So mom and dad only spoke English at home. I don't know why. My mom also spoke her traditional dialect. And my dad never did that. He just always spoke English. And so they would, whenever they would have they wouldn't want to allow us to hear the conversation, they would then speak the dialect, my mom's dialect. But I understand that fluently now, but I can't speak it. I understand it perfectly.
So that's gone out the window.
So we understand
so now your mum and dad are learning German.
It's just that we never used it, so we never spoke Igbo. I'm actually Igbo, so that's the tribe I'm from in Nigeria. So I never spoke Igbo with my parents, but I completely understand it. So my mom on the phone sometimes will speak Igbo to me, but 99% of the time we were speaking English anyways at home. Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
So how UCL then?
So you've landed in Italy. You've done your schooling, and then you qualified as a hygienist in Italy. So you were a hygienist for nearly 10 years.
Yes,
is that right?
Up to today, it's 10 years till today. So what happened is that I finished high school, and I didn't know what I wanted to do. So I was 19. We finished school at 19 in Italy, and I just thought to myself, I just felt I was too young to make a decision that I would have to live for the rest of my life. And things I loved everything, Andy. I loved everything. So I just thought I can do anything I want. My dad always told me I could do whatever I want. He always said that. So I strongly...
That's a lovely outlook on life, isn't it? I
strongly believe that. So I just thought to myself, wait a second. I was thinking things like medicine, there's long courses. But then I said, no, I want to do something that is going to just last 3 years. And then just be like financially independent, because my parents we were all still struggling as well too. And then you just start getting older, your needs change, you want to travel, you have different interests. So I needed that. So I said, no, I can't take this commitment for 5 years. I need to go in 3 years. And I was like, I'm really young, so I can go back anytime I want. And I really love studying. So it was never an issue for me to say, I'll go back later. So I decided to go for a 3-year course. I had no idea what I wanted to do. So I spoke to my sister, and she just randomly took like a brochure from like the University of Brescia, and she was like, oh, why don't you try this? And I was like, what is this? Like, who is a hygienist? I had been to the dentist once in my life. Once. I'd never been to, because as I said, in Nigeria, there was nothing like that. I think the school dentist saw me once, when they would plan, because we all went to like private schools. So we would have the dentist come check our teeth. But that's the only opportunity I had to see a dentist. But I think I was really lucky because my mom was really strict. Like, she never gave us sugars. My mom, oh my gosh, I used to hate it as a kid, but now I'm so grateful. She never, ever gave us anything sweet or anything. So I think that's how I'm lucky that my teeth are healthy today, because I've never had a cavity, never had anything, even if I wasn't seeing the dentist. So that intrigued me, because I said, wait a second, I have no idea. I have no knowledge whatsoever of teeth. So I just said, why not? I think that's going to be really good. Let me go in there, do 3 years, learn something new, and then move on with my life. And that's how I ended up doing dental hygiene. I wasn't sure I was going to get in, because in Italy, they only had 15 spots for the whole city of Brescia. So I didn't think I was going to get in. I did the exam, and they usually start, I think, October, November, while all the other courses start in September as usual. So I didn't think I was going to get in. I started doing something else. I was studying economics as from September. And then they called me and they said, you got in. So I went in there, and and that was it.
I can't remember.
We were just wondering if the Italian guy we were talking to, he mentioned something, and I can't remember if it's the same place.
Is it?
I'm not sure. We'll have to check that. It possibly could have been.
We'll have to. It was only the fact that you were saying it. I was thinking, that sort of sounds vaguely familiar.
Yeah.
But I've no idea why it'd be vaguely familiar.
Maybe.
So you qualified
Yeah.
as a hygienist, and then you practiced hygiene in Italy before coming to the UK for a period of
actually,
time.
the plan is 2 months, just 8 weeks. Just 8 weeks after I started studying hygiene. Actually, King's College London came to visit in Brescia. I came to visit Brescia, my university. So I'm just there one day, in this big hall room, and they're like, "Oh, everyone come over. Yeah, we have some reps from King's College, and they just like to do a presentation." I'm like, "Okay, cool." And then they present, and I see London, and I'm like, "Oh my gosh!" I was like, "No, I want to be a dentist. I want to go live in London. This is not for me. I'm done here. That's my future." And yeah, that was it. And I started telling everyone, "I'm going to go to London. I'm going to be a dentist." And everyone just looked at me like, "What do you even mean? Like, how are you just going to leave here and go to London?" I said, "No, I'm going to finish my hygiene course first because I don't have family in London. And I know I need to look after myself. So it's wise for me to finish this first. So I can get a job as a hygienist in London, and then I can go for my 5 years." And the only person that really encouraged me, apart from my family, was the dean of my dental school. Other people in my dental school thought I was crazy, and I don't think they were happy with the decision. I think some people were even actually jealous, and I would never understand why. So do not ask me why, but they were just irritated by the fact that, "Oh, why would you go to London? Italy's the best place." I know the Italian dentists are really, really good. Like, don't get me wrong. Why would you go there? Are you even sure the dentistry is as good as ours? Blah blah blah. And I said, "Look, I've had enough."
But well done on you for taking the opportunity, because how many other people would have been in that room and would have heard the same thing from somebody at King's College that would have come out there?
And with everyone telling you no as well.
Well, yeah.
Get your head turned, couldn't you? So, I won't go now.
And also that jealousy thing, isn't it?
Yeah,
who do you think you are? You've got
God,
ideas above your station type attitude. And
ideas above your station.
I suppose for somebody who'd gone from Nigeria to Italy with nothing and couldn't understand the language, the prospect for lots of people going to London will be quite, intimidating. But for you, it's just like the next part of the
something
journey.
I feel like they didn't understand as well, because I said most Italians do not speak English, so I feel they were like, why would you even go there? And I actually felt like I belonged. I don't know why. I had never even been to London, but I just knew that. I just thought I would be happier there, you understand? Because as you said, I did have these issues as well. Uni, thank God for my dean. He just looked, honestly, I have to say, he was God sent. He looked after me in these 3 years, because otherwise it would have been another traumatic experience for me. Wasn't the best, but at least he was always there to look after me. He would invite me to international whatever conferences we were having, and he said, "Oh, you can speak English. I think you should be here. I think you should sit with us." And people would get angry, like, "Why is she here? What are you looking for here?
Brilliant. You're
not even a dentist." They would be like, "Who invited you?" And I'm like, because I would turn up for these things and they would just stop me at the door, like, "You're not coming in." And he would just have to be the one to come out and get me and say, "I asked her to come." It was that was my
Shocking,
it is shocking.
Shocking.
You would honestly, and this was from my other professors. I do not understand what the whole antagonism was for.
How did the conversation with your family go when you said to them that you'd be leaving Italy and coming to London? I'm particularly thinking about your sister, your twin sister.
My dad and mom were so happy. They were like, "Yes, you can." As I said, my mom and dad have always encouraged me. And I think even subconsciously as a kid, as I said, all I remember is mom and dad saying, "You can do whatever you want." And I know it sounds really weird, but it really stuck with me right from when I was a toddler or a child. So I had their complete support straight away. "You can do this. Yes, you're going to do better there. Don't worry." They knew that Italy was not ideal.
But also credit to them for following through on it, because lots of people say these things like, "Oh, you can do anything you want, you can be who you want," and then when you say, "I'm going to do it," they go, "Well, hold on a minute, if you didn't really mean it, stay close, stay nearby." So for them to follow through on that,
exactly, Andy, you're right. No, but mom and dad, no, 100%. I think, and my sisters as well. I owe them everything, because even when you start losing faith in yourself or your family, believes in you, that sort of feeds into your continuous hard work and your sacrifices. So yeah, that's when I decided to do it. I decided to work a few years once I was done with uni, because I needed to save some money. I just couldn't move to London. London was way more expensive than Italy. Lifestyle in Italy is definitely cheaper than lifestyle in London. Another thing that really sort of surprised me was when I decided back in 2011 to do dentistry. Back in the days, it was still £3,750, for like a year. And by the time I was done, it was 26, it was £9,000 per year. And I'm like, oh my God, what am I going to do? Because I planned I could afford that, but that didn't put me off. I just thought I just had to go. And apart from that, if you knew the obstacles, like when I tell people my story, the obstacles, like in details of what I had to do to be able to leave Italy, just to get on the plane to London, it was insane. And that's when I think I knew and it clocked that this was my destiny, because the way things fell in place, like so randomly, me meeting people out of the blue, just helping me, it was just so random. Even some people still don't believe it. They think I lie when I tell the story. Is how I was in the bar and I met this guy and I started talking to him and he's like, oh, I have a friend here. And it's ridiculous, like one thing after the other, because in Italy, another thing that stopped me from going straight away was the fact that because I wasn't born in Italy, I needed to have like the Italian citizenship to be able to come and study in London as an EU student. Otherwise, I'd be paying £40,000 per year. And that is like, I'm not, no way I could afford that. I couldn't even afford £9,000. So it was just one of those things. And the Italian government is so strict with how they give the citizenship you apply. And then the law says you have to wait for 2-3 years. That's how it works. You can't apply until you've lived in the country for 10 years. So I had to wait 10 years, apply for that. But mine was just an exception. I remember I was so desperate and my sister just said, why don't you write a letter? And I wrote a letter to like, I don't even know who in the government. I wrote a letter to say, I need this so badly. And I'm not even joking. The next day they gave it to me. No one believes the story. Everyone was like, how the hell did you do that? I'm not even joking. Wow. And everyone writes letters. No one replies. But that's what happened. I literally just wrote a letter saying, look, I got into dentistry. I know I haven't waited. I know the law says you need to wait 2 years for your application to go through. Mine wasn't even 6 months, but I need this so badly and I've worked so hard for it. And the next day, it just came. And when, can you imagine, when I went to my, I went to the, what's it called? Some words are still in Italian in my brain. I'm so sorry. I was supposed to get sworn in. You know, when you get your citizenship, the town hall. Right, yep. Yeah, it's town hall I was trying to say. And I went there and the lady looks at me. She's like, how the hell did you get this? She didn't even want to give it to me. She's like, it's not possible. You can't get your citizenship in 6 months. It's against the law. And I was like, what does that even mean? It's come, it's there. You need to just hand it to me. She's like, no. She made a big scene about it. How is it possible? Because it gets approved in Rome, because Rome is like the capital. And then it gets sent to wherever, you know, whatever city or so. She refused. She just said, it's not legal. It's not possible. And I was like, I mean, what am I supposed to do? So that was another fight as well before she could release it, because she said.
But in terms of like resilience and persistence, you're tenacious, aren't you? You know, if you, but yeah, it's almost built within your being, isn't it? Because of your upbringing, you know, you kind of go all out for something. But that thing about, you know, when you sort of met that person in the bar and they had a friend, I think most people are good. And I think, sadly, quite often what gets reported in the news are the stories that aren't so good. Psycho. But on the whole, I think people are good. I think people do want to help.
They can help. They will help.
They will, don't they? So it's really nice to hear that that was your experience. So many people helped me, and it was, I said, so many random people I didn't even know. So it meant a lot too. And that's why I kept saying, you know what, I'm not going to drop this. I must become a dentist, because this is just like, so it was just one hurdle after the other. But anyways, I got the citizenship, got the passport. Won't even tell you the day I had to get a passport. Same fight as well to, how can you ask for a passport? You've only been a citizen for like 48 hours. And I'm like, because I have a plane to catch. And I was like, what does it matter if I've been a citizen for 48 hours or not? I am still a citizen. It's just everything.
Yeah, it's sort of in a bizarre way feeds into the stereotypical Italian sort of we'll do it now, it'll be fine. Yeah, it sort of feeds into that sort of relaxed sort of. What do you mean you want to?
Yeah, exactly.
In Italy, we don't do things quickly. Culturally, we're just really like a little bit relaxed. Exactly.
Where are you rushing to?
That's what it's all sounding, very culturally stereotypical of Italy. Yeah. But really? No, it's fine. You can get a passport sometime. It'll be cool.
So anyways, I did it and I managed to come in here. And then when I came in here, my next set of obstacles was like finding a job. I didn't know where to start from, didn't know what to do. And I had like a budget in mind, you know. I'd never been to, I'd visited London once, but I knew some parts of London weren't safe. I was here by myself. I didn't have family. So I didn't think it was wise for me to I had to choose the area I was going to leave as well too. So when the agent started showing me different flats, I just thought I couldn't do this. It's where I was renting. And I remember I started crying because I was like, I can't stay in a room like this. Like, so I remember he asked me for my budget. I think I said it was £700 or something. And he started showing me all these flats that looked so scary.
Let me show you a cupboard.
And not even safe. It's not even about the size of the room. It's just literally, I didn't like the location and I was so scared. I said, I'm here for myself. I can't risk this. I can stay in dodgy areas and then, you know, my family or something bad has happened.
Where did you start work?
That's a good question. Yeah. I didn't know where to start from, so I started locuming and I was using FTA. So FTA was actually was what saved me, honestly, because I had no idea what to do. I think I put my CV online and then someone one day, a recruiter from FTA called me and said, "Oh, so your CV, would you be interested?" I'm like, "Yes, I am. I'm so desperate." So what I did initially, I love how you asked me. I have no idea why I started working initially because I think I was telling Andy the other day, I would jump on any random train and go anywhere. Because every month, which I think the first month I didn't work and I saw like my rent was, it's just like every month is like minus £1,000 or £1,000, like, and I wasn't even working and I still had to find my £9,000 my first year of uni. So I thought I was going to drop out after my first year of uni because after the first 3 months, it was so scary and I just kept locuming and accepting random places. Sometimes it would take me 3 hours to get there. But I just thought to myself, I have to do it. I have to start from somewhere because I couldn't find vacancies in London. Either I didn't know how to look for it back then. Maybe I was less experienced. I didn't know what I was doing. But I would accept anything. And I was telling Andy the other day, sometimes I would wake up at 4 a.m. in the morning. I'd be the only woman on the train and I'd randomly go to places where there weren't even buses. Like you'd have to walk from the station. It was just really awkward. And I did that.
Welcome to Great Yarmouth.
I did that for like 4 months. And then finally, I got to locum in a few practices in London and they asked me to stay. And that's how everything started. Yeah.
That was it.
And that was it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. But yet again, the relentlessness of, you know, getting on a dodgy old train.
And also when you don't have a safety net, when there's no safety net, it's amazing how you'll just keep pushing and get things
You're
things
in the boat
done.
or out the boat.
Exactly,
You can't be half on the boat and half on the land, otherwise you just fall in.
And clearly you had a good time at King's College because I know in 2020 you won the KCL Patient Consideration Prize.
Oh, yes.
is a lovely. Well, the thing is, I think it's such a lovely award to win because you do have a very caring aura about you. You know, you're clearly, you know, kind and generous and friendly. So that kind of feeds into that.
Did you get a little award you could put on the shelf or something?
Yeah, I hope there was a plaque involved of something. But the thing is, those are great skills for dentists to have because I know you need the technical knowledge, but that patient consideration is a massive part of it. And I know that you recently did a piece with Dentistry about dental anxiety, and it doesn't surprise me that you were the right person to talk about that because obviously if you can have good patient consideration skills, then hopefully you can start to overcome some of those kind of patient anxiety issues. Have you experienced much of that in your practicing life so far?
And I keep complimenting both of you because I don't know what it is, and I think I told you the first time I met you, is that you guys are so good. You pick, I tell a story, for example, but you're able to pick out the things that matter the most. So for example, among all the awards I won at King's, I won a few. That's actually been one of the most important ones for me. So if you look at the awards I've won, they're not, you know, in terms of, the highest score at so-and-so exam. I'm not that person. Like, I'm all right, don't get me wrong. Like, I'm usually like top 10, top 20, but I'm not like that person that knows the textbook, you know, back and forth. It's things like this that matter to me. So when I won that award, it's actually the best award I've won so far. And then forgot to say, you know how the dental anxiety piece, I won another award for that. So that's very interesting. Both of them, the year later, married. Yes, they actually get on together. So, as you said, I think that's really, really important in dentistry. I am not the most skilled dentist, as you know, I'm at the very beginning of my career. But something I have noticed, as you said, is just, I don't know, I get along so well with patients. And it's just because, I'm not trying to brag here, it's the truth. I genuinely care because when I go out as well, I love being looked after as well too. And as you said, with my life story, you've seen how many people have helped me. So for me, it's also sort of like giving back, you know, to those in the chair, you know, be it my patients or my colleagues, my dental nurses, my receptionists, everyone. And I think that in life, like being kind, whether you're a dentist or not, like generally speaking, just makes a massive difference. So even now, for example, in practice, I see some of my patients, like honestly, they don't know what you're doing in their mouth. It's just about how you make them feel. That's what they always say. People remember how you make them feel. And actually, I don't mind dealing with anxious patients. I've had a few of them also now, especially during my foundation year. And you will be surprised how behavioral techniques actually really work, because when we meet these patients, everyone thinks straight away, oh, let's just sedate them, you know, inhalation sedation or GA or whatever. And you would be surprised. It's just taking your time, especially that's what I do a lot. During the first consultation, I don't rush things. If it means that my patient has to come back another time, if it's just having a chat with them, that's fine with me. And they get to know you, you know, they get to trust you, and you will not believe. Like sometimes it feels like it's magic, and you're just telling them, you know, I'm going to do this. This is the next procedure, and they just let you do it. Like, yes, there's a bit of technique, you know, that goes into it, but not that much. It's just taking your time.
Well, we say, don't we? We say to people that a service is experienced as well as delivered, and that's what you're talking about. And we were saying, you know, when you go to a restaurant, you know, if you go to a really high class restaurant, is the food really worth 4 times as much as something else? But the answer is it's probably not, but it's the way that the whole service is delivered in that experience, which is you then go, oh, that was a great experience. So yeah, I think you're dead right. I'm
not sure who said it, but I think somebody said that people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And what you've just described about, you know, seeing a patient, putting them in the chair, but just talking to them, no dentistry is delivered, and building that trust and that relationship.
Definitely.
Once you've got that established, it's so much easier to then move on to the next stage. But I guess the speed of life being what it is, that most people just want to jump straight into kind of the action bit without kind of investing in that relationship.
But can I say something? How you said, the thing is, if you look at, and that's also something that's come from my experience, is I've had to be patient. So now I just finished dentistry, like I'm 31 years old now. But I mean, all my mates are, majority of people I studied with are 23. So it's just like an 8-year gap. So I've always been patient all my life. I'm not going to get to this stage and start rushing things. Like, you know, people have their lives sorted out at 25, you know. I'm a dentist, like 2 years experience, or I might be getting married, or I have a house, or whatever it is. But I'm just like I've always taken things. I mean, life, I've had to take things slow. It's not like I had any choice. But so I apply that as well too in my dentistry. Slow dentistry, honestly, is rushing is not going to take you anywhere. Instead, it, you know, and I feel like even now, for example, what makes me stand out as well to between me and maybe some of my younger colleagues is it's just life experience. It's not like my hand, I do a better dentistry. I might, just because, okay, I've been a hygienist for 10 years, and I forgot to say as well, so during that period, I used to work as a nurse. So I did everything. I did nursing, I did hygiene, and then I did dentistry. So when we started doing the hands, and for me, I never had anxiety doing it because I had experienced anxiety years and years before when it was new to me.
But you can't, but also you can't rush experience. It's that thing about, it's that 10,000 hours thing, isn't it? It takes you time to get good at something.
That's it. So for me, even now, what I've seen, like my advantage against some of my peers, is not necessarily my hands. Okay, for some things, like for example, you know, perio, anything related with like gum health or as a hygienist, absolutely. I do things so I could do it with my eyes closed because I've done it so many times. But most of the time, it's just life experience, and it sounds really weird. Sometimes I bond with my patients just over life experience. You know, someone's talking about something. Oh, you know, I've been there, I've done this, and I say, oh, my daughter's in the same situation, or I have a brother and a sister, and before you know it, you're best friends. And even if you don't know what you're doing initially, you're still asking suggestions and help from your colleague, because at the very beginning, you know, starting off as a dentist, you don't know it all, or even when you're no one knows it all. You can always still ask, you know, colleagues for help or whatever. But the patient trusts you. Does that make sense? So it's just sort of like that slow process. And everything in my life has just been really, it has come about like really slowly, but that has given me that confidence. I never felt that kind of crazy anxiety, like, oh my gosh, what do I do now?
But also, this also makes you kind of an atypical foundation dentist, because, like you say, lots of people that go to dental school go straight from their A levels. So they go from A levels into dental school, and like you say, they kind of in your situation typically when they're 23, 24, and you're not that typical foundation dentist, which then kind of makes sense why Colgate approached you to be one of their key opinion leaders, because whilst you're very new into the profession and still just finishing your initial training, your experience and the stories you've got to tell and your involvement in dentistry, spans 10 years. And that would make sense why Colgate approached you and you're working with them, which is brilliant, which is really exciting.
Oh, exactly. So in the end, I don't feel everything as you said. I might be at the very beginning of my career as a dentist, but as you said, all of this started in 2010 and we're in 2022. So it's been 12 years, since I've been involved in all these things. I didn't start doing this yesterday.
Yeah.
And yes, so it's because I feel sometimes people look at you on the outside, they don't know your story. They just think, how is it possible? I remember also sometimes at uni, just before we left, people were like, oh, how come? How come? Why you? Like, some people were really blunt. They would even not just say behind you, but even just tell you to your face, like, why? Why would they choose to work with you or something like that? But in the end, for me, it's actually, as I've said, I've sacrificed a lot. I've worked hard as well. I didn't just walk into dentistry today. Yes, of course, I'm not. I still need to get experience as a dentist. But at the same time, as you said, I do have a lot of experience as a hygienist, dealing with patients. And with Colgate, for example, if Colgate needs and, works with dental professionals and they use our input, that's what they use to sort of like develop their products, to understand, what patients are looking for in practice, what patients are asking for in practice. So they need that kind of, feedback from everyone at different levels. I'm not saying like foundation dentist isn't, useful for that. Absolutely. Everyone contributes something. But at the same time as well, another thing I feel like I have as an advantage is the fact that I've also worked in like 2 different countries. So sometimes I bring in some of the things I learned in Italy. So some parts of my training, I have to say, for example, for my hygienist training, I think, okay, apart from my, negative life experiences, in terms of the more technical point of view, I have to say, honestly, the way we were trained in Brescia was just incredible. We were trained by specialists. Like, we would have the specialist dentologists. The standards were incredibly high. And when I was being trained at King's, because when you trained as a dentist, you're a dentist, you're not a hygienist, you're not a therapist. So everyone is trained accordingly to what services they're going to be delivering. So they just briefly touch on it and say, don't worry, you have your hygienist therapist that will be doing that for the dentist, for the patient. Does that make sense? So for me, having all that experience, it means a lot. And that's what I can bring to the table as well, too. And also, for example, I think the other day we were talking about, it's very interesting how we were trying to understand prevention, okay? How, for example, in Italy, prevention is massive. Like, Italians look after their teeth. It's not even a joke. Like, it is, like, people will spend their money on the hygienist and everything, no matter how, even if they're working classes, you don't have to be rich. It's just they prioritize this kind of treatment. Does that make sense? We take our time to do things. So, for example, my hygiene sessions in Italy were always 45 minutes to an hour. When I came here, I struggled. I was like, how am I supposed to, offer a service in like half an hour? I've learned to work my way around that now, as I explain to my patients now if they need more than one session. But even like prevention, Italians spend a lot of money with that. They come regularly. Instead here, I find it more challenging. For example, it's different. For example, in Italy, we don't have the NHS that covers like dental costs and expenses, while here it does, up to certain points. So understanding all these kind of things, I think that's sort of where I can also provide input as well to these companies.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And where do you see your career heading in the future? I know you're only at the very beginning of it. Are you going to focus on clinical dentistry? Are you going to explore business, buy practice?
So definitely starting with clinical dentistry, because I feel like when I become a very good clinician, and apart from my personality also attracting patients, then I also have more skills to attract patients. Something I have to say that everybody, and it's coming out from my ears, both of my ears, is when are you buying your, this is my patients, when are you buying your practice? And I am like, what? Sorry. And
Wow.
I've heard it so many times. I cannot, it's basically, I think 8 out of 10 patients that sit in my chairs. When are you buying your practice? And I'm like,
Sounds like a
yeah.
crowdfunding
I'm
opportunity.
like, and it
Yeah.
makes me, I'm at the very beginning. I said, I'm not even done. I will be done in a couple of months with my foundation training. But it's just incredible. And I was telling my sister the other day, I was like, what is this? I mean, I never, I mean, I think you asked me the other day, I have never thought of owning a practice. I've always just thought of being an associate, and
Yeah.
that's it for me. So this, I've never ever, I don't know why, and I really don't know why, but we will see. But I'm feeling a lot of pressure from patients now. I mean, it's the very beginning, but I know I will take things step at a time. But it is
Yeah, you strike me as somebody who you'll do what you
yes,
want
when I'm ready.
you're
But it's just that it's nice to hear patients say that, because I never, like, if you ask me, I don't think I'm going to own a practice. Just just answering you now, answering your question now. I don't think
Yeah.
so. But you never know. But I'm just saying that.
Well, I was going to say it wouldn't surprise me. If
I
Never
need
say
to-
never.
I was
is the
going to
phrase,
say
isn't
it wouldn't
You never know
surprise me
what's
if
gonna-
5 years from now you'll be sitting there with
Imagine.
3 or 4 practices and you'll
Yes,
go,
I have
yes.
a practice.
And we'll replay
Yes,
you
please,
the podcast.
please
Yeah.
do that. But you know what it is. But I'm gonna own up to this. Why I say that, it's not because I don't want to. It's because I know nothing about it. No, not nothing, but I don't know enough. That's what I'm gonna say about business. And I feel like when I want to do something, I want to know it well enough, before I just venture. So I would need to go on. I don't know. I would need further experience, and then maybe some courses, some kind of training. I mean, maybe speaking to you guys as well, so you can ask about. I wouldn't go into something blind. I just feel at the moment.
If you can learn Latin and Italian,
Do
I think
business.
learning
You'll be
about
fine.
business will be
You'll
a bit
be
of
fine.
bit of a breeze. To be
Honestly,
honest.
a lot of business is quite intuitive. If you've got a good moral compass, you've got a good value system, and you treat people well, that's 90% of it. If you've got those things, which I think you do, everything else kind of fits around it,
build a
and
structure.
also you can get people around you to do the
Yes.
bits you're not good at. So, but yeah, I mean, like I say, you're so early on. It's like I say, it's the dentistry to start with. But I think, in my experience, I think the best principals I've seen tend to be women.
I like that.
And I don't know whether it's because of the caring side with people or what. But I should also say the worst principals
As
I've seen have been women as
okay.
well. So they fall into two
Just
categories.
balance that up.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
men are pretty good as well. But there's some pretty not so good ones. As well.
That sounds
There we go. That's
cover
covered
all-
all. That's
cover
covered
all
all the
the
bases.
bases.
There we go.
All the
No one's
bases.
going to be.
All
No
the
one's going to be
bases.
upset with us now.
No.
That's fine. Yeah.
No, I think you've got a fascinating story, and it's remarkable to hear all the things that have gone on, and you're still like you're basically just starting your career as a dentist. You've been in dentistry for a long while, but I think the future for you is incredibly bright.
Yeah,
well, my last question before we jump to our two questions that we always ask our guests is: whenever I see you on Instagram, there's always a picture of a beautiful plate of food. You obviously love food.
Oh.
If you had to have a dream dish, what would your dream dish be? If you had to have one
dinner. Oh my gosh, it's difficult. I wish you could have given me one course. Can I have like a main, and then can I have my dessert? Can I do that, please? Don't make me choose.
Okay. As somebody who's clearly into their food so well, you can have
Thank
a 3-course
you.
dinner.
This is like a
Thank you very
negotiation.
much.
Isn't it?
Okay, so my first main course, I mean, it would be definitely pasta. When I say pasta, more specifically, in Brescia, we make this kind of pasta called casoncelli. And it is not just about the pasta, it's about the texture. Like people, I feel, just judge food according to like the flavor, the spices. For me, it goes beyond that as well. It's also like the texture of the pasta. So loads of people in Italy, we used to make homemade like fresh pasta. And that obviously is different from like, your Barilla or your De Cecco pasta that you get from Tesco's or in the store. So I would like casoncelli is what we call it. And that would be my main. And then my second course would be, so I'm anemic. So I'm like a proper, I always make sure I have like meat in my diet.
Okay.
So for me, mine would be like a steak. But the steak, I just make too many references to Italian food, would be like what we call the Fiorentina, which is basically a steak from Tuscany. and the way it's cut, the way it's made, it's just beautiful. And then my favorite dessert is tiramisu. And you guys know what that one is. So.
Of course it would be.
Yeah.
Brilliant. So we always wrap up by asking our guests the same two questions. And the first question is, if you could be a fly on the wall in a certain situation, when would that be, and who would you be with?
So I mean that I think we could have multiple answers to that question. But I think I'm someone that likes to witness something, that I enjoy witnessing hard work paying off, So for me, I think I would have loved to be present in situations whereby people have sort of overcome things and they sort of achieved something. So maybe, for example, every time on the plane, on the airplane, it just feels so good, when you land and when you take off. So for me, I think I'd have loved to be present the very first time. I don't even know who invented the airplane, sorry. But the very first time, that worked, that man could actually fly. And I have loved
the Wright brothers.
Yeah, I was going to say, for somebody who's got a twin sister, it was actually a pair of brothers. The Wright brothers.
Thank you for reminding
two
me.
brothers.
Yes, of course. Oh, wow. I used to know these things as a kid, yeah.
This is where we get history geeky, wasn't it called the Kitty Ball?
Yes.
So
I would have loved to be flying the small airplane the day the Wright brothers were actually able to, take up in the plane and actually land. Yeah.
Powered flight,
Yeah, I suppose you don't think about it. We take for granted our airplanes, don't we? But that very first time.
110,
it's not that
115
long.
years ago.
That would be amazing.
I would have loved to be amazing. Every time, no matter how many times, no matter how many airplanes and flights I've taken, every time it's just, for me, it's always an emotion. So.
Yeah, I love that. I must admit, I love flying.
Yes,
I still find it quite amazing that we can all sit in this silver tube.
Yeah,
that starts off and then 10 hours later you're in.
I was going to say the bit when you're up there can get a bit boring, but the going up and coming down is great fun. It's great fun. And then our last question is: if you could meet anyone, who would you like to meet?
They can be living.
I think so. No, not dentally related. I would have loved to meet, in my opinion, Nelson Mandela is the male version, and then I have loved to meet also, what's the name of that lady, Rosa Parks, because when I was a child, she has been she's just, both of them are people that had to sort of stand up for their rights, I have been in situations not similar to Rosa Parks, but honestly one that just I would never forget that day, literally on the bus, where it was in Italy, and that was the day I came back from London. I flew back from London. It was the day of my dental interview. It went so well. I was so positive. I hadn't got the result yet, but I knew I was in, because the examiner and she just gave it away. She was like, no, you did really well. So I'm really tired. I'm getting back home. I land and I'm on the bus home. And I'm just my mom calls me, how did it go? I'm so tired. And I'm like, Mom, it went really well. And then I'm whispering on the bus, because I'm one of those people that I don't like it when people shout on the bus. And I don't see why we should all partake in conversations. Yeah. I just find it weird when people say personal things, loud. I'm we don't need to hear this. So I'm just telling her, okay, I'll call you soon. I've landed. I'm on the bus. And then the bus driver gets up and gets to me and says, do you mind? Just get off the phone. Otherwise, I'm not going to drive the bus. I was like, what do you mean? And I look around. Everyone's on their phone. Everyone's chatting. And I'm like, are you serious? It's like, yes, you need to get off your phone. Otherwise, this bus will not. And
wow.
Do you know when you're just so shocked? And I was dumbfounded, literally. I was frustrated. I remember I started crying. I was angry. Everything, all emotions coming at the same time. And I remember a lady next to me. I thought she was going to defend me, and she just said, "Oh, do you mind? Just get off the phone so that we can all leave and get home." And I was like, "Are you serious? You should speak against these things. This is wrong, actually." And I got so mad at her. And I started crying. And then there's this other black guy on the bus just comes and just grabs me, just gives me a big hug. I was like, "Don't worry, just ignore them." And I'm like, "But why? Everyone is just on their phone." So I switch up the phone. This guy gives me a big hug. I was like, "You just need to be strong. Just ignore them." And we leave. We actually leave the airport, and everyone's just going on with their life like nothing happened. I remember Rosa Parks in that moment. I was like, oh my gosh. I know it wasn't the same scenario, but it was her having to.
I think the sad thing, Chinwe, is that Rosa Parks was in the late 1950s, early 1960s, and you would hope in those 50,
Yeah.
60 years, things have moved on. So when you hear stories like that,
Southern states, mate.
I was going to say, it
Southern
does
states
it.
have got into
It's
is
heartbreaking to hear that, you know, in many ways we've moved on a long way, but we've not moved on.
I
anything
mean,
like as far
yeah,
as
we
want
have.
to.
We have, because definitely a lot has been done. Absolutely.
Yeah, sure.
So I have loved
Sure.
to meet her.
yeah, true.
And then for me, Nelson Mandela as well, too, because like I said, the amount of perseverance that man had, like all those years in prison and yet didn't give up. And in the end, you know, so I think it's just a massive achievement. So those are the two people I would honestly love to meet. Yeah.
Lovely. Chinwe, it's been an absolute blast. It's honestly, we need to do a follow-up episode, because I'm sure a year from now there's going to be another 50 stories you want to tell us. So
There's probably quite a few still in there, to
I was
be
going to
brutally
say,
honest.
I think we've barely scratched it. But honestly, I think it'll be really inspiring, particularly for either young people thinking about dentistry or people who are still studying, to hear your story and to see that everything doesn't come immediately, and it's okay to take your time, and you know the success comes. Just don't rush it. But no, it's been fabulous. It's been great. It's been lovely seeing you again, and hopefully we'll be able to catch up again very soon too.
Thank you very much.
Excellent. Look after yourself, Chinwe. Lovely to see you.
Cheers. Bye.
Cheers.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Dentology, where we discuss the business of dentistry. If you like what you heard, please do subscribe where you found this episode. That would be amazing. And also follow us on Instagram.